I am in charge of documentary studies at the Research Laboratory for Historical Monuments, as you said, and I'm going to present you the documentary processing of the image setup in our lab within the framework of the scientific worksite of Notre-Dame. And I'm going to give you details on how it is carried out, what it consists of, and how it is integrated into the Digital Data Working Group and the Notre-Dame Digital Platform. We call it NDEM, as you have seen, the NDEM Digital Platform. So, first of all, following quickly the day of the fire, the sorting operations were subject to a protocol designed to identify and number the elements that fell and were recovered in the cathedral, according to a system of grouping by bucket and storage on pallets. And this is what we call a bucket on a mini excavator. And we use it as a documentary unit. At each stage of the sorting, pictures were taken from several angles by the different agents that were present on a daily basis. We used the bucket, so you see a bucket here on a mini excavator, and we use it as a documentary unit. And at each stage of the sorting, pictures were taken from several angles and by the different agents that were present on a daily basis. And we had two steps, two phases of sorting. The first one into the cathedral, and the second one outside under some big tents, some banners. And these procedures allowed us to organize the thousands of shots according to a filling plan that followed the evolution of the construction site, and we will see in more detail in another section. So the constitution of the photo files and the photographic follow-up set up to assist and document the operation of removal of the debris in the cathedral quickly generated a huge number of photographs from the first days when the interaction of the various agents was possible. And the agents, the scientific, indeed covered the operation of sorting and removal by proceeding to systematic shots according to the protocol setup, from the lifting of the buckets, as we have seen, which bring back the debris to the sorting table and the pallets containing the recovered elements. And well, I have no pictures. And these are the folders that are retrieved from further processing. And the images were organized according to the dates of presence of the agents in the cathedral for the sorting. Then they upload the files using a basic naming rule for their folders, allowing to define a minimal framework because it was an emergency work, and a minimal framework of classification to absorb the daily flow of photos. Folders and files was to organize a tree structure to prepare the use of all this data. And first of all, by setting naming rules to harmonize the naming of the files, then by dividing the images into folders created ad hoc, and finally by creating a classification plan in parallel, to which we will return. So I told you about the distribution of the images. It's not animated, I'm sorry, but it was just to talk about the central element of the shooting and the element we took, which is very important, the timestamp. And this creation date was first used to rename the files according to the information present in the EXIF data of each camera. This is the data relative to each photograph and presented in a format, a standard format, and therefore information that is automatically produced and generated by the camera and stored in the image file. And to create the name of the image file, the timestamp was followed by an abbreviation indicating the sorting area and corresponding to the nomenclature used on the site. We used N for the nave, and TN for the north transept, etc. We added a trigram or acronym allowing to find the operator of the shot as a possible additional information. And once the images have been identified by zone and operator, the script allows the production of correctly named files, which will then be distributed in the different parts created in the classification plan according to their nature. And the classification plan precisely was articulated in two main parts on the left. And the first for the images of the sorting, and the second for the other photographs taken on the site. So it corresponds to thousands of photographs. The third set on the right is an extraction of images showing only the palettes, which is useful for other reasons. So on the left, in that part that we call the sorting protocol buckets section, you can find photographs concerning the sorting itself, divided into according to the areas of Notre-Dame where the piles of all the elements to be removed were located. The storage part, there is a storage part, gathers the pictures taken under the balance, the big tents, so in the second phase of sorting. And all the images are grouped by sorting zone. We can find other site images, or the folder of other image gathers all the images which are not concerned by the sorting protocol. So as I said, it corresponds to thousands and thousands of images, and it's a folder that evolves according to the areas or problems of the construction site that gave rise to the production of images. And finally, on the right, the image classified in the palette section are those that concern only the sorted elements that have been distributed on palettes. The documentary valorization of the images is then based on the use of control vocabularies and indexing mechanism. In order to enrich the information contained in all these photographs, the commentary processing relied on the use of keywords and descriptors already present in the vocabularies used within our institutions, in particular those of the French Ministry of Culture. Those vocabularies were integrated into the indexing tools of our laboratories to describe the content of our documentary databases. But beyond these structured vocabularies, certain categories were created, specially created, to describe certain aspects of the sites, as well as the possibility of using the inventory numbers, which were used for the buckets and the pallets. And all of these vocabularies made it possible to constitute a mini thesaurus, useful for the queries and for all the possibilities offered by the search and filtering modes by keyword facets. And this hierarchy of terms has become meaningful by being part of the thesaurus management tool that is OpenTheso. OpenTheso is a tool created and developed by our colleague Millet Rousset, where all the terms and concepts useful for describing all our data present on a digital platform are gathered. So for the management of Thesauri, as I said, NDM has therefore chosen to use the OpenTheso software. It is open source, it respects the standard of the thesaurus, and allows us a centralized and collaborative management of all the thesauri. And to build the NDM thesaurus infrastructure, the first step was to start from the existing thesauri in the working groups and then create the missing ones. The first column from the left shows the list of working groups. The second column shows how we managed to recover a certain number of thesauri. Here are some names about architecture or some glossaries, etc. In the third column, to the work done by Isabelle Cao, another colleague. These thesauri have been integrated into OpenTeso by different methods, by importation in SCORS format or CSV format, creation by hand. There were also the creation of a new central thesaurus at the top, the endem thesaurus, that serves to group and centralize common concepts for the ecosystem. And here are the enrichment and consolidation action carried out on this central thesaurus. Alignments with other thesauri, alignments with external vocabularies, addition of a permanent identifier of the archetype, and enrichment with nodes, images, and GPS coordinates. The first column, you can see to link other programs of an endem ecosystem to the thesauri, OpenTeso has also a REST API, as you can see in the first column. And it allows to provide a controlled and remote indexing by an auto-completion system or a widget. Then the indexation of the images is done from the hierarchical terms and correctly named files. And this manipulation can be done by batch or for each image and allows to integrate information on the numbering used for the inventory of the buckets, as well as for the description of elements present on the palettes. And the use of keywords allows for cross-searching the entire image base, with the possibility of isolating and filtering through facets, allowing for queries on a specific category or directly on an in-inventory number. The final preparation of the file is done in two steps. First, by retrieving the metadata specific to each image to make an output file that will be attached to the images uploaded in the storage space provided for this purpose. When the images are indexed, the methodology that was chosen to value this semantic description was that of an extraction of the data present in the image, as it was seen previously about the timestamp and the shooting, combined with a recovery of this indexing information, and the whole forming a set of metadata specific to each image. The file of extraction, as you can see, of this metadata thus generated is a CSV format, is a spreadsheet which gathers the column headers, taking again the information which one mentioned, with in more the means of finding the name of file of origin, as well as its position in the plan of classification. It is thanks to this file that the information can be imported into the collaborative tool ArcheoGrid in order to visualize, edit, and enrich the indexing. And my colleague Sarah will show you ArcheoGrid just after me. To do this, when these operations of naming, indexing, and creation of output files are completed, the batches of images as well as the files that describe their content are placed in the space of the digital workgroup present on the Humanum box storage device, set up by the Humanum very large research infrastructure. And these batches can thus be harvested by the various tools of the endem digital platform. So some figures to finish. About 12,000 images are indexed or in the process of being indexed. The images in the process of being indexed are reorganized according to the procedures set up by the digital working group before being transferred. From this number, about 5,000 images are uploaded into the Humanum box storage space. About 8,500 images are directly linked to the two sorting operations. It's a lot. The first sorting, which concerned the areas inside the cathedral until the last elements were removed, and the second, which took place under the Barnum, the big tents, where the pallets were stored. And we have some extra 50,000 images from other colleagues, photographers, are intended to be indexed. And these patches will be indexed following the protocol described above and its evolution.